Whatever time that is.
Midnight.
That's the time, yeah.
This is gonna be a quick one if you guys want it to be.
Call the meeting to order for December 8th, 2016, and roll call.
Chairman Beecham,
Here.
Salzweedl,
Here.
Cadwalder,
Here.
Chambers,
Here.
and Schrauben is absent right now.
I make a motion to accept Chalmers absent at this time.
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and seconded to approve the absence of board person Andrew Schrauben. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to approval of the agenda.
I have no changes.
Well, before we go on, I want to introduce Marty Chambers. I don't know if everybody knows. At Monday night's meeting, Marty applied to be a board member at Lowell Light and Power and was accepted. And if you want to go around the table.
Steve Donkersloot, General Manager of Lowell Light and Power. We met the other night.
Yep.
Tina Cadwalder, resident and a board member of Lowell Light and Power.
Bonnie Barnes, the generation superintendent.
Jim Salzweedl, a good friend of Marty's.
Julie Morris, Utility Services Coordinator for Lowell Light and Power.
Ryan Teachworth, Distribution Manager, Lowell Light and Power.
Julie Stewart, one of the accountants here at Lowell Light and Power.
And Office Manager.
And
LL&P
Promoted, huh?
on the Planning Commission. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Andrew Schrauben and Light and Power Board.
Perry Beecham? Yep. Okay.
Good to meet
Good to have you on board. Marty?
Welcome aboard, Marty.
Yes, Marty, welcome aboard.
So with that, Andrew's here, and we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Any changes?
I have no changes.
If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the November 10th, 2016 regular board meeting.
I did have one comment or correction on them. On page 6 at the top under the board comments, where it said I congratulate Greg for getting more than half the votes. I mean, that's kind of how you win an election. I mean, that's what I actually referred to as getting almost half of the registered voters. I don't think it's actually not quite half, so that's what I get for quoting my memory. But
Okay.
Half
So-
of the registered voters.
yeah, or you could
Yeah.
say almost half of registered voters, so it's actually like 40-some%, but,
Okay.
and actually 2/3 of the vote, not half, but that's what I was referring to, the fact that he had a high total given the number of voters we have, registered voters we have.
Okay.
So
With that
you can even
change,
just make it a qualified statement of getting lots of votes.
Okay.
But
with that change, I would motion to approve the minutes.
I would like to motion, I'm sorry, did
Go
you
ahead.
have another one?
No, I was going to make a motion, so
Okay, I would like to motion to approve the minutes.
and I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to approve the minutes with the change with Andrew's comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. Tim, any comment?
I got nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Doing great.
Okay, we'll move on. Now, action items, PTO leave donation program policy.
Okay, the first of two action items tonight, as Perry mentioned, is the PTO leave donation program policy. As you all remember, except for Marty, obviously, Anna and I had worked during the months of October and at the beginning of November in the development of a new policy for employees who had either experienced serious medical issues themselves or took a basically a leave of absence because a close family member had experienced medical problems, and through them being gone, there was a significant loss of PTO, so that when they came back, they either didn't have any left or they had such limited PTO for the remainder of the fiscal year, they're really in a hard spot. So Anna and I developed a policy based on other already established policies, governmental policies, and we presented that last month. And I believe we made a few changes within the last month, and a finalized policy was emailed to all of you. So included in your packet is that finalized version. So the hope would be tonight to have further discussion about that policy and receive your input if you see any changes or amendments that you'd like to make, and then with the hopes of eventually approving then tonight.
For the public and for Marty, what our employees came, I think, to Steve and said, you know, we'd like to, I've got tons of PTO time, I'm not using it all, and we'd like to be able to help a couple of our employees out that had used up their PTO time. So this is kind of, so it was from, I think it was from our actual employees that said, we want to help our fellow employees out. So this is how this became worked on.
Where I currently work, we have something pretty similar to this. Some of us senior employees I've got 65 days vacation down there. And some of these newer guys come in and they don't have the time that they can take, and we do give them, it's not an official thing that we do, but our company recognizes it, that if we donate out, 20 hours or 40 hours or whatever it happens to be. I think last year I gave 80 hours, and they just roll it over to them. They just take it from me and transfer it. So, yeah, this is something that's pretty good to do. And our company's nationwide, and we started it in Lansing, and now it's filtered through the whole company. So it's kind of it's a new and upcoming thing that works pretty good. That's my experience with it.
And it doesn't, for the public, it doesn't cost Lowell Light and Power anything more.
I was going to mention that it's a zero-sum game, so someone who donates PTO, it's donated at their hourly rate of pay, and that dollar amount goes into a bank. And then someone who would be eligible for receiving PTO, they would receive it at their hourly rate. So the company's liability for PTO, there's no increase or decrease. This is really just to help people out that are in need, is really the design of the policy. So I don't know if there's any changes or amendments. I know Andrew made the comment last month that it seemed pretty good last month.
Yeah, I reviewed it. Matter of fact, I actually sent it to our executive team at Mid-State. If Marty says, oh, we've had an incident where we don't have anything formal, and they were looking at that, so this was a good start. That, like Marty said, a lot of companies are now looking to do that, so I'm glad we're ahead of the curve and being behind it. So, good job.
If there aren't any changes, staff would recommend approving this tonight.
I read through it, and I'm just in awe because this is great, and I want to move forward with this. So, if anybody, I'd like to hear what the rest of the board members want to, give her input. But I've looked at it and read it 3 or 4 times. I showed it to my team leader, and I said, "Look at this! This is amazing." And we wish, my company is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. We are nationwide, technically, and we don't have this. And this would be fabulous for people that are in that situation. Like you, I have a bunch of time that I could easily hand over. So, that's how I feel.
So with that, you're kind of our resident expert on benefits and everything. At least I always look to you. I would entertain a motion to approve the PTO donation program policy.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
On to the second action item, the replacement of 2 rooftop heating units. I emailed the entire board on Friday, November 18th, about this. 2 of our 3 rooftop heating units, which supply heat to this office building, Sharon and I's wing downstairs, and the upstairs, the heat exchangers cracked, and they were taken out of service. So we received quotes from 4 vendors to either fix the units, which we estimate are 15 to 20 years old, or entirely just replace them. And in your packet, I had included a quote from Canfield Plumbing and Heating Incorporated for a replacement cost of $13,704. Perry asked that I provide the other 3 quotes to the board, which I did via email, I believe, last week, and I provided them to the board this evening, just for complete transparency and just due to the fact that Greg was on this board as recently as last month. So after talking with Perry on the 8th, in November, he agreed with staff's recommendation to just replace the 2 units instead of fixing them, because who knows what's going to go wrong with a 15 to 20-year-old unit anyway, and it wasn't significantly more to just replace the units. So I received permission from Perry to replace the units. The replacement was done last week, just in time before the really cold weather hit. It was 50 degrees up here last week. So that's happened. The cost to do so was $13,704. So just for formality, I'm asking that the board approve the replacement of those 2 units tonight.
What shape is the third one in, as we look at down the road for budgeting? Is it 10 years, 20 years, or?
I'm going to turn that over to Ryan.
I really don't know the age of that one, because nothing was talked about.
Oh,
The condition was in very good shape, the heat exchanger looks great, so.
And we do have preventative maintenance done every year.
Every year, yeah.
On the units. And it just so happened that these 2.
I didn't know if it was right behind it, and, it would have made better sense just to let's do all 3 new and just get it done with, and we got 10, 15 years and not having to worry about it, so. As long as it's only 1/3 of the building getting cold.
Right. Well, it's Julie and
It's everyone else.
Megan.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
And this was, as Steve explained in his emails and everything, this was over our purchase number of 10,000. But in not waiting till this meeting, we would have, by the time, if we approved it at this meeting, it would have been another probably 7 to 10 days to process the order and get it in here and everything. So again, after Steve and Ryan and myself talked about it, and we just, moved forward with that. I do want to point out that these were not closed bids, but they were sent in to Ryan, went out and got the bids. So I just wanted for the public to know that each one of them, no one saw the other bid before they went in.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure, because of Greg being formally the chairman of this board and also now a council member, that there was nothing done under the table or anything like that.
I believe his bid came back first, if I'm
Yeah,
not
I do see the
mistaken.
dates on these. He's 11/11, everybody else was 4 or 5 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good point. Nice
Yep.
catch. So anyway, as a formality,
Yeah, you're right.
I would entertain a motion to approve the replacement, even though it's after the fact, with Canfield Plumbing and Heating.
So moved.
And
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the bid of Canfield's.
Thank you for jumping right on it and getting this moving right away.
We don't turn our heat on till.
Ryan did a lot of legwork, so thank him.
Anyway, there's a motion. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to informational items. Steve?
All righty, and I'm going to go through the informational items a little bit slower, just as this is Marty's first meeting. So, Every month, these are pretty typical things that we present, performance data, capital projects, income statements. So the first of which is a performance data review of November. Sales were right around 692,000, up 7% compared to the previous year. If we look at residential sales, we're up in kilowatt hours just under 6%, and actually the billing cycle this November compared to last November was 1 day less. This year was 32 compared to 33 last year. So it really shows people are actually using more. It's just not a billing cycle thing. Commercial actually was a 32-day billing cycle this year compared to 28 last year. So there was 14% more billing days this year compared to last year, and that explains a lot of the kilowatt hour increase in the commercial.
Is some of the increase due to the fact that we have smart meters, so we're getting more accurate data information, where before some might have been slower, faster, stuff like that? We don't have enough data yet to determine that?
I don't know if we have enough data. I want that, if anything, meters only slow down by 1 or 2%, so it's not going to be like,
Okay,
I wouldn't attribute it just to AMI meters.
okay,
I couldn't confidently say that.
that's it. Just
So,
asking.
Yeah, I don't want to scare the public and say this is the whole reason, but I
Got that,
don't.
Yeah.
Any questions on sales or kilowatt hour usage? Customer account, residential customers were up 7 compared to the previous month, 2310 compared to 2303, and commercial customers were down 3412 compared to 415. There wasn't any generation in November, but you'll see that in December we will have had generation, and that's a great announcement that's coming later in the board meeting. Information from prior months, and the reason for this is delayed reporting from the MPPA. They get information from Campbell and Bell River, which takes a month, and then they process it, and it takes another month to get to us. So that's why our total electric requirements is the total amount of energy that Lowell Light and Power purchased, not sold. We always have system losses, and this was on a calendar basis. So this is saying in September of 2016, Lowell Light and Power actually bought from the MPPA 6.595 million kilowatt hours. And it's very hard to tie that to how our sales, because our sales happen from mid-month to mid-month. We read the meters, we're trying to get later in the month, but maybe the 20th through the following 20th, and then we bill. So it's very hard to compare sales to purchases from the MPPA, although with AMI, it's going to get much, much easier. We're going to get close. So it's really easy to zero in on your system losses with AMI.
Because the AMI is all electronic.
Yeah, so previously, we would read meters, say the 15th, and it would take 4 or 5 days. And then we would have to physically take those meter books, punch them in the computer by hand, which takes a couple days. You run a variance report. If there's any outliers or something was misread in the field, or maybe we punched in the computer wrong, we'd actually have one of our linemen, one of our distribution staff go out to the meter and check it, process all the variances, and then print. With AMI, all of that's gone, and you can just press. All the readings are coming in every day, and we choose a day that we want to bill from, and we could now bill the 25th or 26th, and there shouldn't be any variance unless a meter goes bad. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we're moving our billing cycle back 1 day at a time each month. I don't want to go from the 17th to the 25th, because people would experience a 36, 37, 38-day bill cycle, and they would get a huge bill and attribute it to the AMI, but really their bill would be high just because of the 38 days we're billing them for. So we're trying to move it back 1 day each month until we get to the 25th or 26th. And that'll happen by probably next June. I think this past month we billed on the 20th for the AMI meters.
So I want to throw something out, and you'll probably want to wring my neck.
Great.
Driving today on the radio, listening to an ad for, and I'm not sure if it was DTE or Consumers Energy. They are now allowing consumers to choose their billing dates.
Yeah, it was DTE. I heard it.
So that they can, so for instance, let's say I have, I'm on a limited budget or whatever, and I have, a bunch of bills come in on the 15th of the month that I've got to pay. you know, and so they're allowing you to set up whatever billing cycle you would want,
Right.
so that it would, again, ease the frustration of a customer. Is that ever possible? I mean, it probably would be
Possible,
anything's
potentially, it would
possible.
be, right, I mean, to set that up, my first thought, it would be an incredibly hard task and a major, major headache for, our software is so much more limited than like a DTE.
Okay.
You're talking. And I think the reason for that is DTE previously has been reading meters every day of the week, every month of the year. So they have all these billing cycles. So when somebody's on AMI, they're already billing every single day because they have so many bills. We only have 2,800 bills, and we process it once a month. So to start changing billing cycles and due dates, yeah.
I mean, I
don't want to just say no and shoot it down.
I just heard it on the radio, and I just wanted to.
I mean, Julie, maybe we should just ask Daffron and just see how easy it is.
Sure.
And again,
But
I don't know.
I could let Julie or Sharon talk to this, and I know they're gonna.
I don't know how big a deal it is, and
Yeah, you would think it's simple, but
well, I don't think
Ash?
it'd be simple.
Julie, what are your comments?
My comment is it'd be a huge deal. It'd be almost impossible.
Well, again, I'm just, as competitors in this business, I just want to, this is what one of our competitors are
And
doing.
no more rides and radio on them.
Okay.
We're gonna edit that part out of the video or something. Thanks, Barry.
You're welcome. We just, you know, you got to keep up what the industry's doing.
All right, yeah, I know.
We offer other things.
So, moving on to the peak demand in October, it was 11.167 megawatts compared to the previous year at 10.632, up 5%. And then generation was 0 this year and last year. And Marty, for your reference, Consumers Energy has told us that due to gas supply in the area and limited capacity on their system, we may only run our turbines from May 1st through September 30th. So that's why you see a generation of 0 in October, because they've restricted us from running any time other than those 5 months. So,
But there's, for the pub, there's still a plus side of having those, a big plus side.
Yeah,
of
I'm gonna
having
get to
those-
that.
Those generators, so.
Yeah.
And when we put those in, it was for the summer, for the peak months. Eventually, we would like to be able to run them, you know, whenever we need, 365 days a year. But the idea was for peak generation, which peak generation is basically in the summer when your air conditioners are running.
correct. Residential and commercial billing statistics, nothing's changed. However, if we look back at October, we see that the average residential usage was 723 kilowatt hours with an average bill of $89, coming out to a cost of 12.3 cents a kilowatt hour, and commercial statistics were at 10.8 cents a kilowatt hour. And the last time we've had any sort of increase or change in rates other than the low-income energy assistance fund factor was December of 2014. So we're going on 24 months without any change in rates, including the PCA that we all know has been much talked about over the past 3-4 years. Moving to the back of the page, investments in cash up slightly compared to the previous month, and down slightly compared to the previous year. We're at 2.319 million this month. You'll also see that there's a new line item, the Huntington Bank Vehicle Replacement Fund. We approved this account with this signers last month, and Megan did make a transfer out of our Huntington Bank account to this vehicle replacement fund in the amount of $40,000, and that will be reflected in the capital budget. And we expect to make monthly contributions of $5,000 a month from December through June to meet the $75,000 that we budgeted back in our May or June budget that got approved. So you'll notice this will fluctuate with vehicle and equipment purchases over time, but we do plan on fully funding it at the $75,000 amount. Moving down to delinquents, I do have some updates. Delinquent balance at the end of the month, we received a payment on Monday, and that $10,769 was reduced to $2,213. And the balance from the previous month was moved from $568 down to 0. So much better than what was reported when I delivered the board packet last week. And you'll see that the delinquent balance of inactive accounts, which is the number that I focus in on the most, because once they're inactive, you have a lot less leverage of collecting that money. I mean, shutting off their power does nothing. So that amount was reduced from $8,517 to $7,417. And then moving to the aging analysis, that $10,603 number was reduced to $2,646 based on the payment, and the 61 to 90 plus days was reduced from 5406 to 4807, meaning that the entire aging analysis was $51,445, which was down significantly from the previous month at $62,622, and which is also less to the previous year. So great job by staff. Any questions? Moving to the outage summary. We had 5 outages this past month, four of which affected 6 customers or less. We were out for a total of 4,172 customer minutes, and when you do the math, we were available 99.996% of the time. And staff did take a very, very aggressive approach at reducing outages within the last month. The river crossing, which has caused us more problems than anything in terms of outages, Ryan, Mark, Rich, and Justin rented a piece of equipment, talked with the city. There was a number of dead trees there that, when the wind blew or a storm, just fell down. Outage. So all dead trees at that river crossing were basically taken down by light and power staff. So the only way that an outage could happen now is if an alive tree were to blow down. So we do expect to see better results with outages now that that's been done. So huge thanks to Ryan and his staff for getting on that.
Thank you.
It was a fun project, wasn't it, Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
You were driving. What were you driving down there?
Yeah, I was operating. Yeah, it was good.
You had a
It
big-
worked really good. They tipped over really easy, so every time the wind blew, it would have been an outage. And it really saved some headaches.
You only did this side of the river though, right?
We did the south and the north side of the river.
Okay.
Yep.
'Cause when I came driving down through there, I could see where you guys did the north side, but I can't see the south side, but.
We did the south side too, opened it right up.
And this really, we had a couple outages the same day, and Dependable Gas was like, hey, we understand, where we are, and there's this river crossing, but isn't there anything you can do? And they were excited about it, so we got right on and we're like, this just needs to stop. We need to do something. So anyway, that's what we did. Moving on to the income statement. Sales were slightly under budget for the month, $692,000 compared to a budget of $714,000, so we were 3.1% under for the month. But if you go over probably 2/3 of the way, current year-to-date variance, we're $126,000 over budget year-to-date, which translates to 3.54%. And as you move down to total operating revenue, again, just over 3% under budget for the month, but $126,000 over year-to-date, 5 months year-to-date. Moving down through the different categories, you'll see that generation, we were slightly over budget this month, but we're $4,600 year-to-date. And the reason for that was the removal of a lot of generation equipment here at the office facility. I talk about later in my manager's report, the big heating cooling tower. Staff spent significant time taking that down, as well as getting rid of equipment at the warehouse, a lot of old scrap. So that was a lot of generation equipment that staff took care of. Purchase power was right on budget for the month, and as you would expect, over budget for the year. I mean, we're over budget on sales. When you're over budget on sales, typically you're going to be over budget on purchase power, just because it's a direct correlation. Moving down to the distribution department, under budget for the month, under budget for the year. In customer accounting, We were over budget for the month, and the primary reason for that was Sharon and our EO programs, but you'll see that we're still under budget for the year, and it's really just due to the timing of a lot of incentive checks that are dispersed, and you'll see that in customer accounting, we're still 2.25% under budget for the year. And a lot of these other categories are smaller, but you'll see for the year, we're under budget on marketing and advertising, admin, general outside services, office insurance and maintenance. We're right on budget, 0.73% over on employee benefits, under budget on miscellaneous, under budget on depreciation. And I would like to point out on the office, the admin, general, and outside services, you'll see that under the outside services, accounting, legal, engineering, and consultant, Hafner and Bredeveld, our accountants, sent us their invoice 1 month later than expected, and I believe that was a $6,000 invoice. So that actually was paid in November instead of October. But you'll see year-to-date, we're still $1,400 in that line item. So it was just a timing thing. Does that make sense to everybody? So moving down to operating income, we're 50,000 over for the year, 9.54%, and that carries all the way down to net income. We're $46,000 over budget for the year, 13.4%. So sitting very healthy 5 months year to date, and we're $151,000 away from reaching our goal for the fiscal year. Any questions about the monthly financials? On to the capital budget. Go over the summary page, which is the second page. $31,000 was spent on the Siemens CT project, and the majority of that was, I believe it was roughly a $20,000 on-power invoice that was approved last month, as well as payroll time. $8,700 was spent on equipment for 4160 to 12470 upgrades. The last invoice for support for the AMI project came in, and that project is now closed. You'll see a note below the table that says the budget reallocates money between 4 different projects in the following ways. We allocated $23,440.09 from the Lowell Energy Center aesthetic upgrade to the AMI project, so we would come in on budget. The Eaton, Cooper, and Dell portion of the project came in at $512,000. The board budgeted $525,000 for those 2 portions of the project, and I believe that was in last December's board meeting. The reason we were over budget was strictly staff's payroll time. So dollars we were going to pay anyway that went to this project, just due to accounting rules. And then $6,559.91 was put to the Siemens CT project, which you see is over budget. I do expect that we're going to take money out of the SCADA project, which is almost done, the security network, software, and phone upgrades project, which is almost done, and the capital equipment budget to make sure the Siemens project has enough money in it, and these other projects should not need the money. So in total, we approved capital budget for this fiscal year of $990. And I do believe we will not go over that amount. It's just the reallocation of that 990 has changed. And it's mainly been due to the Siemens CT, but as we'll talk about later, and as the board knows, there's a few things that have happened over the past number of months, but the benefit of being able to get it up and running far greatly outweighs the cost that we had to incur to get it up and running this year by probably 4-fold. So it was a wise investment. And we did sell generation equipment for $5,000 this past month, and you'll see that that was added to the capital equipment, and that was the heating cooling tower and the heat exchangers. Any questions? On to the manager's report. The next MPPA monthly board meeting is December 14th next week. So I will report anything from that meeting at our January board meeting. I was also asked by the MPPA to present Lowell Light and Power's AMI project to all the other municipalities. And I plan to do so actually in January. The SUS customer platform, we had expected it to be out by now, and we expect it to be out soon. I got an email that the final query that's needed to make that go is being reviewed by SUS, but I want to make that a key part of my presentation to the MPPA. So until that's ready to go, I'm holding off on making that presentation. The third quarter hedge plan report was made available last week, and in 8 of the 12 months in 2017, they recommend us buying bilateral agreements for energy so that we're in compliance with the targeted hedge range for our supply of energy in 2017. And after talking with MPPA and reviewing it myself, I agreed and authorized that purchase. So that took place. I also wanted to give you an update about a conversation I had with Pat Bolin, the CEO of the MPPA, 2 days ago. Pat, Jim Weeks, who's the head of the MMEA, the Michigan Municipal Electric Association, and just for your reference, Lowell Light and Power is part of the Michigan Public Power Agency. We're one of 18 municipalities that are part of that agency, and they really handle the power supply side of the business for us, the energy that's purchased off the MISO market, the capacity transactions that take place. And all municipalities in the state of Michigan are part of the Michigan Municipal Electric Association. So the head of the MPPA, the head of the MMEA went to Huron County where the wind project is taking place, and NextEra, the vendor who's really leading the project, they're the biggest wind developer in the United States. They've been working on the project, I believe Pat said, for 4.5 years, and as the board knows, we committed with 15 other municipalities to a 150 megawatt purchase power agreement for wind. It appears that that whole project is in jeopardy due to residents and local commissioners and council members in the area who just don't want to see it there anymore. And there are 3 primary reasons for that. 1, aesthetics. They already have wind farms up there and they just don't want to see anymore. 2, there are people who would have the wind farms on their land who would receive some revenue, but you have other people who might be a school teacher, or they work at a shop, or they have some other job on their own property right next door who would get nothing. So there's some bitterness. And then third, and Pat said there's large oil and gas and energy companies at a nationwide level funding grassroots efforts and putting out commercials about the negatives of wind. And that's really been the driver to get people fired up. So Pat and NextEra and Jim were all at a meeting in Huron County the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, said it didn't go well, and there's actually a vote next week on that. So we'll see how things play out, but this would be a huge hit. I mean, we'll be able to find renewable energy somewhere else, but with the biodigester in limbo, obviously, and it doesn't look like it's going to be producing any renewable energy, and us not getting renewable energy from wind, we'll have to look elsewhere, potentially solar or wind in other parts of the state. But that's all I know for now, but I just wanted to provide you an update. So it's not like we're out any money. They would actually be in violation of their agreement with us, and they would have to pay MPPA a penalty. So there's nothing financially that we're at risk for. It's just, this was a great project at a very competitive price, with a not to exceed price of over, I believe, $50 over a 20-year contract per megawatt hour. So this is something we wanted to see go, but we'll see what happens.
Is the state government going to ease up on because right now with the 10%, I mean, it has to be generated in Michigan.
Right.
So with these projects that aren't going forward, and they have a goal of, I don't think it's a law yet, but they have a goal of more renewable energy. Are they going to?
It's a great transition to my next point.
Okay.
Senate Bills 437 and 438. 438 calls for 15% renewable energy in 2021, with a 25% goal of renewable energy combined with energy waste reduction, which was previously called energy optimization, by 2025. Those bills passed through the Senate. Jim Weeks, the head of MMEA, thought they'd be a slam dunk to go through the House. He doesn't feel it's even a 50-50 anymore. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. But the feeling is if those don't get passed, and lame duck session before the new people take office, that they're going to start from scratch and the re-education and rediscuss them. So, but to Perry's point, the state law says right now everyone must have 10% renewable energy, and that those renewable energies must come from the state of Michigan. So it creates a problem when these great sites to produce renewable energy, like wind and the thumb, get shot down, but you can't go out of state to get renewable energy. It's like a catch-22. So we'll see what happens, or if the state of Michigan and the governor's office flexes their muscle, that would be all speculation, but, or if they say, hey, this needs to be done, you have to do your part. You know, there's Monroe County that has coal plants, and there's other counties throughout the state that have energy production that you're benefiting from. Now it's time to do your part. I'm not sure what will happen.
Steve, is there another plan for another one on M21? Because I did notice going to Owasso the other day, stopped the wind turbines and vote no on them as well, too. They were along the whole stretch between...
I'm not sure, Jim. I really am not sure. I'd have to...
Happen to see them in the fields, no wind turbines.
Really?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I'll ask about that.
Yeah, and I was there Tuesday. Yes.
If it is a project that's not with the MPPA, it would probably be like consumers are at DTE trying to put in wind. So, whenever there's change or new ideas, there's always resistance. And we're just seeing it here.
So does Michigan actually produce enough renewable to meet those numbers?
10%?
Yeah, like the state as a whole, like.
Yeah, right now we have.
Renewable supply in the state so that everybody could meet the mandate. So-
Right now, yeah, because people had to meet in 2015, and
Right.
it's been met by all the players.
But then the 15%, like how close is there even 15% out there, or is it?
So that we need another 5. These projects would have to take us there.
Right.
So there's the potential, if these projects happened, to get to the 15.
Mhm.
But if the projects can't take place, then you would have to see something like solar or like a biodigester or landfill gas. And I believe the landfill gas, a lot of that's been already used up,
Right,
and
it's gonna be
even the
used up.
landfill gas contracts that we have, they haven't fully met what they said they were going to produce. So I'm not sure what will happen if these wind farms can't be built.
Right.
I
Well, I'm
don't
just
know
kind of
if-
wondering if if that 15% by 2021 passes, so, then.
Is it even possible?
Yeah,
you're
is it
saying?
even possible for all energy suppliers to meet that? I mean, I don't even know if Michigan, I guess I have no clue, but does Michigan even produce 15% renewable?
Right now?
Yeah.
No, they could, with future development of
Right.
projects, yes.
Okay, so these projects have to happen just even for the supply to be there for all the providers to.
Correct, and these projects were
Have
like
that
the most
ratio.
economical.
Mhm.
I mean, it's affordable, so it's
Yeah.
fair to customers, so they're not gonna see huge jumps on their rates, but,
Mhm.
yeah, it's really to be determined. I don't think, we're gonna see
Yeah,
if,
so there's a lot of uncertainty then.
right, yeah, we don't know if the wind project will or won't happen at this time, and we don't know if Senate Bills 437 or 438 will or won't happen, so in January, we'll know a lot more.
Mhm.
So the meeting on the 12th, don't miss it.
Is that why they put that big solar up on 69 coming back Port Huron? There's a massive solar field up there. That's got to be 100 acres or better.
Anytime you see that, it's either a customer trying to offset their own use, or it's a big player in the market trying to meet renewable energy standards.
DTE.
Yes, that's a direct result of this law.
Okay.
Alrighty, system generation upgrade progress. When I wrote this, Marty was not on board yet, but we did have a meeting last Thursday, and I believe you're all up to date with the latest information, the course of action. The first of the 3 action items was to revoke the wastewater discharge permit, and I talked with Dick, and he's in the process of working with Markmont and doing that. The next step is to really negotiate the removal on Leeds dime of the biodigester facility by January 16th, where the purchase power agreements and lease agreements would then be terminated.
Just go back, just so it's clarified. It's not going to be removed
Yeah, it's just.
by,
The
January
negotiation
6th.
or agreement of the removal. Sorry,
that's okay.
Yeah.
The public needs to,
correct. Yeah, it won't be removed by January 16th. The second and third steps will happen after the discharge situation is taken care of between the city, Mark, and Dick. So we expect to meet with Lee here in the next couple weeks, and I'll keep everyone updated as to how that progresses. In addition, I have a meeting with Mike, Mark, Munt, Richland Bombard, the mayor, and Perry with Lighthouse next Friday to try to work through their issues. So just want to let everybody know that we're going to do whatever we can to work with them. Great.
while we're talking about it, and I did bring this up at the council meeting on Monday, and just for the viewers that are out there, it was reported last Sunday in the Grand Rapids Press that 500,000 gallons of waste was spilled. Not even close. I mean, it would be somewheres between a couple hundred to maybe 1,000, 2,000 max.
A very small percentage of
small
what was in the
percentage.
tank actually spilled.
But again, the press did, I just want to clarify that, sensationalized it, near explosion, 500,000 gallons were spilled, so.
Yeah, we don't know the exact amount, but, oh my gosh, all 500,000
Well,
spilled.
that's almost as much as the tank holds, right?
I believe the tank holds 750.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that'd be 2/3 of the tank. And where it was leaking was the top, so, everything
Yeah, so the
below it
tank-
couldn't.
Mhm.
Right. All right, on to the Siemens combustion turbine. What?
Can I ask just, I mean,
Oh, this is great news.
no, just.
Best news of the night.
Back to the biodigest, just for a minute, just for the public, because again, I've seen trucks still going in and out.
Yes.
So they're still pumping, are they, because the last, as of Thursday's meeting, the projection was that they'd have it emptied by maybe Friday and they would start power washing and cleaning. Are they at that point yet? Do you know?
No,
2 tanks left to go outdoor.
they're
tanks.
doing the other 2 tanks and the IFAS tank, and I think originally they were just gonna pump the big reflow. Now they're doing everything.
And they are power washing them and cleaning them right out. We talked to the crews that are working over there, and they've had to answer for not very clean tanks on other jobs, so they're really thorough about how they're cleaning them out from what they're saying. Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the Siemens combustion turbine. I have great news and many thanks to say to Barney, and really a lot of our vendors, On Power, GRP, Thaka Newkirk. I told you, Marty, earlier in the meeting that Consumers Energy restricts us from running past September 30th, and we weren't able to commission the unit by September 30th. I've been in contact with Consumers Energy over the past number of months and let them know the importance of us commissioning this unit. And they were very great to work with, and it just so happened that last Friday, On Power was here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so we'll be receiving another invoice from them. But they were able to commission the unit, produce just over 3.5 megawatts. They ran, I believe, parts of 3 hours on Friday and a couple hours Saturday. And that 3.5 megawatts, I already talked with Brent Henry from the MPPA, will now be eligible to receive capacity credit in the MISO market. The MISO cycle starts June 1st and runs through May 31st. And any new unit has to be registered with MISO by January 31st. And really, just due to the quickly dropping temperatures, we knew that if we didn't get it done very, very soon, we weren't going to be able to do it at all. But the estimate is we'll receive approximately 3 megawatts of capacity credit. And right now, capacity is $4, with the expectation that it's going to go up potentially $5, even high as $6. So the value of getting that unit running will be a reduction of purchase power expenses starting in June over a 12-month period of approximately $180,000 to $216,000 just by getting that unit commissioned this year. So we came in over budget, and we paid on power extra to be here, but to gain $216,000 to even spend 50, you're making $166,000. So it's really a no-brainer, and a huge credit to Barney and the entire staff's willingness to not say no, even though it looked like a no many times. So great accomplishment. Very proud of the entire team.
So that, the capacity ends up being a credit. And so it's that amount of money that we don't have to pay out.
Correct. On our income statement, under the purchase power section, there's an actual line item that says capacity charges. That, I believe right now, we're paying $11,000, $12,000 a month. That will go down to almost zero, or even actually money sent to us. But yes, it'll be a significant reduction in that capacity expense that we're billed on a monthly basis. So a huge cost savings.
Is that the deficiency capacity charge?
Let me look, sorry. Yeah, and you'll note that we're significantly over budget there because I had bad information when this budget came out. But it is the deficiency capacity charge, $11,465.80. That should be close to zero or potentially even a credit next year because we were able to have this unit run for 1 hour.
It sometimes seems crazy, but even though, that was, the public was, we had been chastised before about why were we doing this when we wouldn't have the gas, and we're looking at different alternatives, but again, it just shows how much, even though that we can't run it from September to
October 1 through.
It saves us a ton of money.
And they're doing that just so that the gas that goes to heat everybody's home is,
Yes.
they know they have a surplus
Correct.
and enough.
Yeah, their gas system planning engineers, the Consumers Energy, look at their entire system, the flow of gas, and say, hey, if these units were to run and take 50,000 cubic feet per unit, people's pilots would start,
Right.
turning off, so.
But after that date, then they kick on and then they run.
We run those units depending on market price of power.
Okay.
So we know what it costs to run those units per megawatt hour, and we actually have a portal that the MPPA has created that we can see the price of power every 5 minutes, and we can dispatch those units depending on what the current price of power is. So if the price of power on the open market is $80 and we can produce it for 52, we should run. Even if we don't need it, we can just, it's all a paper game.
Or in the past, like MPPA might call us up during the summer and say, we got a high demand and everything. They'll ask, tell us to kick them on or whatever.
That's
So-
correct.
And that's where the capacity credit comes from, right?
Correct.
Is that they can ask us to do that, and so we're being paid to have that capacity on call, so to speak.
Yes. And there is the expectation that MISO, because you might say, how can we get capacity when we know we don't have firm gas? We're not doing anything illegal. That's just the way MISO's set up right now. If they were to call us in the winter and we couldn't run, we would have to forego that month's credit for that unit, which is only fair. In the future, they're talking about having a summer and winter capacity cycle. And that, they think, will go into effect June of 2018 or June of 2019. So it's imperative by that time that we do have a gas solution so we don't forego that capacity credit in the winter months when we can't run. Because then it would be unethical to take capacity credit knowing we couldn't run when they're saying you're not even allowed to obtain the credit. Does that make sense? So that's over a year and a half away, but still something that's coming.
Yep. And then to clarify, when we're running just to sell the power on the market, that's separate from the capacity credit, right?
Correct.
That's over and above.
Correct, that's, yeah, it would almost show up in like a surplus energy,
Okay.
where we had extra energy that we were able to sell in the MISO market. Yep, and that's a separate line item on here too.
Okay. And when we were doing the turbine project in the beginning, was there like a return on investment timeline? I mean, because it sounds like it's not as long as I would have imagined if the capacity credit itself is $200,000 a year.
Yeah, the turbine, I believe both I believe the first turbine, don't quote me, I have to go back and look, is gonna run in the first turbine was 1.6 million, the second was 1.7, 1.8. But yeah, 8 to 9 year return on investment. I believe
That's pretty
though
quick
that.
for such a big.
Right, and that's assuming they don't run. And then you still have the value of selling energy in the market when the price of power is high, and local generation if there were ever to be a catastrophe with a transmission line or something on the grid. So, yeah, I mean, fairly quick return on investment for something that big.
And that's all based on just the capacity credit then?
Correct.
And that includes like all the labor and,
Yes, this 1.6 million, that's Barney's time, that's every engineer, every single thing we might have bought from Ace Hardware or wherever, every single thing that goes into that project.
that's turning out to be a really good one then. I mean, that's,
And when we bought those, I mean, we, not auction, but that we bought them used.
yeah, it was a good.
A
it was
Ford
good
plant
deal
and
for
a
the
paper
age of them.
mill.
And, you know, and Steve's brought it up before, when to insure those, our insurance company won't let us.
We have them insured for close to $7 million. And we've said we don't want to insure them for $7 million. We've done it for half that. They said,
Sorry.
that's what they're worth.
Replacement, yeah.
Yeah.
So the project's been done, close to 50 cents on the dollar, and we do expect, and you'll see it in the next budget, there are things, and Barney could speak to them further if you wanted, that the first turbine's control panel should be upgraded so it's run more properly. And if we do plan on running these more consistent, we were able to get full-time gas, there are things that we have to do to keep putting money, but we don't expect to be near what we've done.
So we've basically gotten over the mountain.
Correct. Yeah, the expensive mountain's done.
Yeah, and so there's still terrain to get, you know, but we're already.
Bumps in the road.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's, yeah, I mean, that's still pretty impressive for something of that size to return in 10 years.
You have anything to comment on, Barney? Really, this was your thing.
Well, we still have some purchases to make on a turbine. When OnPower was here and they ran through the sequencing and running, we found out there's some valves that aren't quite up to par the way they should be. And so we had to purchase new ones, and there's still work to be done. But it runs operational, and it ran real nice and smooth.
Apparently, it's pretty easy to start this one up too, isn't it?
This one's easier.
I mean, you just press a button and,
Put everything in auto, push a button, sit down.
but if something goes wrong, you have to know everything.
Yeah. The other one, the auto function doesn't work because the console's not quite up to par. And that's what Steve was talking about, upgrading that. And OnPower, I gave them the program for the solar console. And they're going to look at it and see if they can come up with something that can be done less expensive than buying a whole new console.
Cool.
So I have an operations question.
Don't look at me then.
Well, so, can Ryan run it?
You can push a
You can
button.
push a button.
I mean, my point, or I'm asking is, what is our future? I mean, future in that, again, I know my age, so I know where you are, Barney, and I mean, retirement age. I mean, so do we have other employees? I know he's the system operator. Are we teaching somebody else? We
really
Do we need
haven't taught
to-
anybody else. That's something that staff's gonna have to look at. We have targeted one employee who's under Ryan right now for him to learn that, but it is gonna have to be something that's part of, you know, when
A
we get to.
plan.
Yes. We've been focused on really just getting them to run,
Yep.
obtaining that, but that is something we're gonna have to look at that we haven't done thus far.
Okay.
Now you've got lots of time to teach them, right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. I mean, it only takes the Navy 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for about 2.5, 3 years to learn how to run them.
Yeah.
Simple.
Or being around you for a couple of years, so don't leave for a couple more years.
But how
Well, the
many
guys,
years did you have
you
in
know.
the service?
20.
20, so you're actually bringing to the table 20 years of credentials to run and do what you do down
Right.
there.
And he has
So-
his doctorate. We should be calling him doctor.
I know, so we need to find somebody that's in the service or right off the boat.
Okay.
Let's grab somebody from there.
Well, it's basically a giant jet engine. You know, is
I
what it
couldn't
is, so-
believe it when I walked in there.